for listening to Get Pet Outdoors podcast. On this episode, we've got a treat for you. We've got Jules Mcqueen, and I give the reins over to my wife Carrie on this one, and they got the whole girl vibe going on. So it's pretty cool. They talk about how she got started in the business and basically how she got started in hunting, period, which is a great story alone. And Jules gives some tips on first-time turkey hunting as well as first time for pig hunting. So I think you'll really enjoy it. Stick around and listen in.
Everybody, I'd like to welcome Julie Mcqueen. She's the co-host of Till Death Do Us Part on Carbon TV. And previously, you may have seen her on Sportsman's Channel for 16 seasons. Welcome, Jules.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to be on here with you.
I'm so glad we finally were able to get time. How's Daniel Lee doing? We'll throw that out there really quickly because we all know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were actually scheduled to do this about a week ago, and Daniel Lee had a little we thought was a minor accident. He cut his hand with a pressure washer, and don't ask me how that happened. I think his hand slipped off the end of it, but he's all better now. He had a terrible infection and had to have surgery, so that's why we postponed our podcast. But he's better now. He has almost full use of his hand again. So it's a lot easier in this house when he is, not disabled.
Well, I'm sure that everybody who is listening to this and everybody who even has any idea of who you guys are and what you do, we're all really happy. Lord knows we want him to be back to playing guitar again.
Oh, I know. That was the first thing he thought when he had to go into the hospital for it was, his initial thought is his guitar playing. So, but, it's funny when those things happen, so many people reach out and there's so much kindness and friendships and you were one of them. I know I was talking to you while I was in the hospital with him, and it's just amazing to me how many wonderful people surround us in our lives. We're so blessed.
Isn't it neat when you have such a mindset of helping people and doing good? It's amazing and such a blessing to see how much it comes back. It's like tenfold. And we talked a little bit about that whole filling up of the karma bank. And I am a true believer. I'm a true believer in that for sure. Well,
Yeah, I really am too. Yeah, for sure.
Let's dive into the whole hunting thing of it. So, tell us a little bit about how you got into hunting. I know you've done so much self-learning in life and really have devoted yourself to improving yourself and doing so many amazing things. But how did you get into hunting?
It's interesting. I am not from a hunting family. So when I was a little girl, I had an interesting childhood. I grew up without any television. I grew up on an Indian reservation. Even though I'm not an Indian, we just bought a house there. It was a very different type of childhood, but it never involved hunting. The one thing it did involve, though, is I'm from a military family. So my mom and dad met in the Army. So I've always been around firearms and guns. And, I had to learn how to clean guns before I was ever allowed to shoot any of them. And it's almost like that was ingrained in me that, firearms are a big part of our lives. And then when I got to the age where I could make my own decisions, around 16, 17 years old, I decided that I wanted to learn how to hunt. And it wasn't for any other reason than I just had this feeling inside of me that that's what I wanted to do. So back then, and this is kind of aging myself a little bit, but back then we couldn't just hop on YouTube and look at tutorials and, have the easy way of figuring it out. I actually had to go to a bookstore, and I would sit for hours and I would read the hunting magazines and the books. And I didn't even know which big game animals were in which states. I had to learn all of that. I couldn't tell you the difference in mule deer and whitetail when I started hunting. I had no idea. So I self-educated, and I already knew kind of what caliber of rifle would take down that type of animal. So I borrowed a rifle. I borrowed property to hunt on, and I took myself hunting for the first time. And it's not the ideal way of learning how to hunt, which is why I'm very supportive of people now who want to get their kids involved. I'm very into, educating kids about hunting and getting them in the field at a young age. So I just hope that more kids have that available to them, because I didn't have that myself.
Well, that's absolutely amazing that you were able to take yourself to have that ambition and then follow through with it and just be so successful at it. Tell us, did you harvest anything that first time you went out?
Yeah, I did. I actually, the person who let me hunt on their property, they told me to just shoot. I had a deer tag, so I could shoot a buck or a doe. And they said, literally, whatever walks by you first, just shoot that, because it's your first animal. You're by yourself. You don't want to sit all day. And it goes as far as to say, I didn't even know that tree stands existed. I sat on the ground because I didn't know that you could sit up in a tree. So I wedged myself between two trees, and I sat there for a couple hours maybe. And a deer walked by, and he was about maybe 70, 80 yards in front of me walking down a ridge. And I had a 7mm mag rifle. So, that's a pretty easy shot.
Right.
And I shot this deer, and it was not just the first time I had taken an animal's life. It was the first time I had ever seen an animal die. So it was very emotional and very scary in a lot of ways, but also very rewarding. And I ended up shooting this really nice buck. He was about 8 or 9 years old. He was a really nice 12-point buck. So a really good trophy for my first deer.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know I grew up in a small town, and hunting was our way of life. School would get out early hunting season started always on a Saturday. And so we would get out of school for a day and a half prior to hunting season so that everybody could go and do their thing. And that's just how it was. But dating myself, that was back in the day when you could actually take a gun in your gun rack in your truck to school and nobody thought anything about it. In fact, hunter's ed was actually taught at school. So,
right. Yeah, the good old days, right?
Right, exactly. So, and, I took hunter's ed at the age of 12, had been around it, same thing, grew up small town, and I actually grew up eating venison, and it was just the way of life. But that's awesome. That is awesome. And that speaks to your quote about how you can be anything you want to be, but you're going to have to work for it. Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
You've worked for it.
Yeah, for sure. I always say that because my mom has always been very supportive. And like I said, I had a very different type of childhood. So she was just different in her way of raising me. And I think not having TV was a big part of my success later in life, because I had to be creative. I had to read a lot and find other ways to spend my time. So I self-educate. Even now, I still take classes. I take college courses, and I study, and I try to learn every single thing I can learn. And I attribute that to the way my mom raised me. And she did always say, you can do anything you want to do in your life, but you're going to have to work really hard for it. And boy, was she right. I've had some fantastic accomplishments, and I really, that I credit her with that for sure.
Isn't that cool to be raised by a mom or parents like that? It's how
it really is.
I was just going to say it's how I, try and raise my kids, but it's so hard in this day and age to have that same kind of childhood that you had or that I had, or, so many people like our age have had.
Yeah, it is a very different world. Right now, the kids are dealing with a lot of instant gratification, short attention spans. They're always looking for something different, something new, something more interesting. That's why the videos are getting shorter and shorter that they're watching, and their attention spans are getting shorter. And, it's just a completely different way of raising kids now than when we were kids. So in a way, I think my mom had it kind of easy. All she had to do was kind of point me in the right direction and I'd figure it out. But now it's a lot more difficult, I think.
It has changed for sure. I know I enjoy teaching Hunter's Ed to the kids and, still trying to get them excited about it and passionate about it and really get their interest. And I've noticed that if I can capture them right around the age of 10 to 12 years old, that they're really, really excited to learn about it, and they want it. They ask questions, and they're just impassioned with this whole process. And being a woman and teaching these little girls has just been, I love it. I can't think of anything better to do than to be teaching it. And
I agree. And you have to look for those windows of opportunity with kids, and that's why I'm such an advocate for, pretty much any person who reaches out to me and says, hey, my kid needs this, or she's going through a hard time, or, just went on their first hunt, whatever it is, even if I only send a note or something that says, that's awesome, congratulations, I feel like you have that tiny little window of opportunity with kids. And if you reach out and you inspire them during that window, it will never leave them. And I think it leaves a lifelong impact on kids when you reach out in that way. So that's one reason why I'm just so passionate about every kid that I can, get in their head and tell them they're doing a good job. I go out of my way to try to do that.
Well, that's awesome, Jules. Thank you for being such a positive influence on our kids, and Lord knows they really need it. And hopefully these kids are getting even more inspired when they're watching you on your TV shows. And
I hope so.
I know I would like to know, but I'm sure everybody that's listening would like to know, how did you get into the TV side of things? Is it just an opportunity that happened, or did you actively pursue it?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm such an outspoken person about this also. A lot of people in today's world in this industry, or who are trying to get into this industry, they assume that you can just get a TV show, that you just kind of, oh, hey, I like to hunt and I'm really cute, so let me get on camera and go kill some animals. And I'm such a strong voice on the opposite of that, because that's not really how it works in the real world. I started, and again, I'm going to age myself here, I started pro staffing back before pro staffing is what it is now. This is back when they would send you a letter. I still have the letter that I got in the mail from ScentLock back in 2001. Will you please be on our promotional staff? It's not professional staff, it's promotional staff.
Exactly.
Yep. Go to some store openings, learn about our brand, spread the word, wear it in the field, give us your feedback. It was a promotional staff opportunity. So back in 2001, I was pro staffing for ScentLock and Muzzy Broadheads. And back then they would purchase your photos. If I went out and shot a big deer and was using their product and had it in the photo, they would buy those to use as their advertisements. And from there, I worked my way into being behind the camera a little bit. So I would run camera for people. I was in front of the camera, not getting paid for it, just kind of getting that experience. And I really networked. I met as many people as I could, and I tried to be a good person and tried to, find somewhere that fit really well for me. And then about 6 or 7 years ago is when I got together with my now husband, Daniel Lee, and he already had a show. And we knew each other because I was already in the industry and he was already in the industry. And it was just a really good fit because I can run camera and he runs camera, but we're also both in front of the camera. So for me, it was a luck thing. It was just perfect timing and a good opportunity. And it worked out well because now we have one of the busiest production companies in the outdoor industry that we run together. And so I just never want people to think that you can just wake up one day and go, oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to have a hunting show. and then have it be successful, because it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, the business side of it isn't always fun. It's not that glamorous sometimes. You have to have some way to pay your bills. And, I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and I said, I get a lot of people who ask me, how do I get paid to hunt? And I always respond the same way. I would love to know too. I wish I could get paid to hunt. I don't get paid to hunt. I get paid to be a producer and to run a company and to make commercials and TV shows and sometimes to, endorse products. But I definitely have never gotten a paycheck to be a hunter.
Right.
So, I think that that's a very common misconception in this industry that's my job, and it's really most definitely not. I found a way to make a really good living by producing commercials and TV shows in this industry, and I'm in front of the camera because that's my product, that's my brand. So it's very interesting. I think if a lot of people knew all of the details behind it, it would really change the perspective on this industry.
Well, and I think that most people probably don't understand that when you get to the level that you are and what you're doing with your company and with your shows and with your hunting and with your promotional work that you do for companies, your life is not your own. And you're probably on the road, 250 days of the year?
Yeah, last year it was 250 days away from home. And you're right, it is a brand, and I own that brand. Julie Mcqueen is, it's a brand. That's something that, a lot of companies trust my name to, give a positive image to them publicly. And I do everything in my power to keep that brand positive and good. But at the end of the day, it's still my name. It's still who I am. But I don't really have the right to just do and say anything I want anymore, because I do represent, companies. So you're right. It's just really interesting when you start thinking of it that way. And, on one hand, I'm just a girl who likes to be in the outdoors. But on the other hand, my name is kind of a brand in itself. So it's interesting.
Well, you've certainly put your time in to get to where you are. Having a show on Sportsman's Channel for 16 seasons is not easy, and having it be successful it's not anything easy. There's lots of shows that come and go, but obviously you have staying power, which is a wonderful thing because I enjoy watching it.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, that means a lot to me. And, I could work all day and all night on a project, and if nobody likes watching it, then I didn't do a very good job. So I always like to hear that people are enjoying the things that we put out there, and we try to have fun with it. And I think that's a big key to the success is, there's not one day that goes by that I don't have a really good time doing what I do. So I'm constantly laughing and finding the lighthearted side of things. And, but I also work really hard. I don't get nights or weekends off. I work all night and all weekend most of the time. So it's a trade-off, but it is fantastic to have had such a wonderful career in this industry.
Well, how do you get any work done when you are working around Daniel Lee all the time? Because he just seems like he would spend all the time cracking up everybody. And is he the type of person that's like, making faces behind the camera when you're trying to do something serious?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's a disaster. he's just an absolute mess. And, we work really well together. He and I, we think alike. We work very similar to each other. We're both producers. But he's usually the director, and I will field produce. So he pays attention to all those little details that I might miss. And, when things get too serious, you can always kind of rely on him to lighten things up and make everyone laugh. And he's been so blessed with a sense of humor that just puts everyone else to shame. He's just hilariously funny all the time. And we have had some amazing adventures, and fortunately, it's all caught on camera. We have pretty much everything we've ever done in life together on camera, and we can go back and kind of relive some of those fun memories. And but yeah, it's sometimes, I will admit, it's hard to get any work done because he's just such a crack up all the time.
I know that I, obviously was doing a little bit of background on you before I sat down to do a podcast. And I came across the little story of how, you and Daniel were hunting and, he was running the camera and you had an opportunity to take this trophy buck. And you're like, no, you do it. So you put down your bow and got behind the camera. And you want to, can you tell the story? Because obviously it's your story to tell.
Yeah, it's really funny. So we were in Texas, and I had booked this hunt down in Texas. And everyone knows in Texas, you're going to kill a deer. I mean, if you can shoot straight, it's not a really difficult hunt. But they had offered us one trophy buck and one management buck. And a trophy buck is anything over 8 points, preferably a 10-point, preferably over 4 years old. And a management buck would be anything less than that. So Daniel and I decided that since I hadn't taken a deer yet that year, that I would get the trophy buck and he would take the management buck. Well, the first day in the blind, this buck walks out in front of us, and he's beautiful. And I'm looking at him and just I'm really good at judging deer on the hoof. I can tell you their age, I can kind of judge it pretty quickly by their bodies. But in Texas, the deer are smaller, and I was having a difficult time judging the age of this deer, and I didn't want anything under 4 years old. So deer walks out, and he's gorgeous, and I looked at him, and I thought about it, and I told Dan, I said, no, I'm not going to shoot this deer. You can have it. And he's looking at me in disbelief because this is a beautiful buck. And so we switch. I put my bow down. He puts the camera in front of me and picks up his bow and knocks an arrow. And well, the deer had walked off. And then the deer came back. Well, I'm filming the deer through the camera, and then I get another look at him, and Daniel's about to draw his bow back. And I said, oh, wait. No, I want this deer. And he kind of looked over, and you could tell he was kind of frustrated and mad. And I'm like, no, put your bow away. I'm going to shoot this deer. So we do the whole switcheroo thing again, and he gets the camera and puts his bow down, and I get my bow and knock the arrow again, and the deer comes back out in front of me, and I go to draw back, and I take a look at it, and I went, okay, no, I don't want this deer. So I keep changing my mind over and over, and the whole thing's on camera, and I think he started getting kind of aggravated with me because he was just kind of like, oh my gosh, make up your mind, woman. So finally, I put the bow down. I took the camera back again. He gets his bow, and this deer steps out at I think it was about 30, 32 yards, and he put a fantastic shot right through the heart. It didn't run hardly at all. And I was super proud of him and so happy for him. And I always use that story as an example of how things are ours. It's not his deer, it's not my deer, it's our deer. We both worked equally hard. We both, were there together, and we both harvested that deer in a certain way. So we laugh about it now, but from now on, I think I'll be able to make my mind up a little bit sooner when the trophy. And by the way, just put it out there, it was a trophy buck. That was actually considered a trophy on that property. I found out later. So I've got to start educating myself more on judging body sizes of deer that are down in Texas in comparison to Midwest deer.
That's an awesome story. It puts it right up there with, the couple that hunts together stays together. And
yeah. It's an interesting thing. You spend that much time together out in the wild, and you kind of start, working together because, really that deer went into our freezer. It's not his freezer, it's ours.
Right.
And, that's really the whole premise of what we do is filling our freezer together. So, I'm a huge believer that, every mount in our house, we don't go around and say, oh, this is my zebra or this is my, deer. They're all just kind of ours together.
Right.
So, yeah.
I wish one of these days Lonnie and I will get to hunt a little bit more together. We're lucky we get opening weekend generally for archery elk season. But with having kids and having jobs, he generally gets 1 week, I get 1 week, and we trade off, and that's okay because we can support each other that way. So it's always really nice when we get to go out there and be together. And I don't think he's been with me when I've harvested an elk yet, though. So
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah, not yet. And I have not been with him when he's gotten his. So one of these days we will get our timing right and do that.
Right?
Do you have a favorite hunt other than the one that you just described? Do you have a favorite hunt that you've been on? Maybe not one that's even been the most successful, but just the one that's the most, ingrained in your memory is an awesome hunt.
Let's see. The one that I always think of is the very first hunt that Daniel and I ever did together. We were already friends when we started dating, and we knew each other really well. And he asked me to go along with him on a hunt to Colorado because I could run camera and we were dating. So it was kind of an easy call. So I went with him to Colorado, and it was my first time going on an elk hunt. And it was a really, really tough hunt. We stayed in a high elevation cabin that didn't have any electricity and no running water. And when you first start dating someone, you want to look kind of nice. Well, there were no mirrors. There was no water. I mean, it was pretty rough. And we spent, I want to say 7 or 8 days up there with a friend of ours. And, he did harvest his first elk on that trip, and I filmed it. And I didn't get an elk. I had a tag, but I didn't kill one. But it was really meaningful. It was kind of a good way to kick off our relationship and to kind of establish that teamwork ethic. And, it was one of the most physically demanding hunts that I had ever done. And the fact that it was successful was really good, but that wasn't even my favorite part. It was just the struggle, the everyday trying so hard and getting to know each other out there in that situation. I think that when people start dating, they should just go spend like a week with no running water together and see if they still like each other afterwards, like here, go stay in this cabin for a week. And then if you walk out of there and still like each other, you'll probably be okay.
Yeah, definitely. It's in close quarters and maybe not smelling the best and not looking the best. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so funny you say that. When Lonnie and I were first dating, I was over in Idaho and I had gone out backpacking, solo hunting, and he was keeping in contact with me and I was sending him kind of my GPS coordinates. And he drove all the way from Central Washington over to where I was and found me by those coordinates, found my little base camp and my rig. And I came out after 3 days of, backpacking.
Oh, my gosh.
And he had a little hibachi and made a little hamburger, and it was the best meal, and he still thought I was great. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to marry this guy.
Oh, see, isn't that the best? That is such a great story. Oh my gosh. I think that should be the ultimate goal for couples when they start, getting to know each other and dating, is things like that. That's what really matters.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Our relationship is great, and I'm sure you and Daniel have lots and lots and lots of stories, and you'll be telling those stories for years to come. So yeah, we have some good stories. We have a good time all the time, which is really nice. That's awesome. Well, tell us about turkey hunting. I know it's one of your passions, and I know that you and Daniel, correct, are spokespeople for the National Wild Turkey Federation.
Yeah, we are. We just actually signed on not too long ago with the NWTF as official spokespeople. So we're in with a really good crowd there. We've got Brenda Valentine, my good friend Jana Waller, and Michael Waddell. We're all spokespeople, and it's a big responsibility, but, it's something that I've always wanted to accomplish. So, part of what I'm passionate about is that conservation aspect of what we do. And turkeys are very, very dear to my heart. When people ask me what my favorite animal is to hunt, I almost always say turkeys. Depending on what mood I'm in, I might change it once in a while, but almost always it's turkeys, because that, to me, is the best part of my whole year, calling turkeys in during the spring. And, I live and breathe for it. And I always say my heaven is going to be spring turkey season every day, all day long. That's what I live and breathe for. So, it's very, very awesome that we get to be a part of that organization.
Now, what hunting implement, and it's one of my pet peeves, but I very rarely will say weapon, because to me, almost anything can be a weapon. So I always say implement. Yeah. But so what implement is your favorite to harvest with? Archery, rifle, shotgun? No, you don't use rifle. Never mind.
Well, some states you can. I haven't done it yet, but I would. I know Montana, you can use a rifle for turkeys, and a few other states. I'm not against it at all. I would totally try it. I love shooting things with my bow. I shot last year. I shot a turkey in Nebraska with my bow. And that was the infamous turkey hunt where I almost lost my finger. I'm sure you heard about that one.
A little bit. I wasn't going to bring it up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I still hear about it all the time. I shot that turkey really well, and they're just really strong animals, and he ended up not dying, and I in the struggle almost lost a digit. But then the next 4 days after that, I shot one in Tennessee with my shotgun, and they were both equally as rewarding and awesome in my book. So I don't know. Sometimes I've taken my bow and a shotgun into a blind with me and just said, oh, well, I'll see how I feel when they come out. As long as that's legal, I'm all about any weapon at all for turkeys.
Right. I think Washington, you cannot use a rifle. I'm going to have to look at my regs a little bit closer, but I'm pretty sure you cannot.
Yeah, I know, like, even in Florida, if you're on a WMA, you cannot use a rifle. But on private property, some public property, you can use a rifle, you can use a handgun, you can use a shotgun, a bow, whatever you want to use. I think a lot of states are opening that up a little bit. Montana just opened it 2 years ago to take turkeys with rifles.
Cool.
So, and that's the way a lot of people used to do it in the old days. They would just shoot them with a rifle. I mean, that was like a totally normal thing to do. So I think it'd be kind of cool. I guess I'd do anything twice,
Take squirrels with rifles. Why not a turkey?
Why not, right?
Yeah. So for those first timers out there, because I would throw myself into that category, I have never harvested a turkey yet. This year I'm going to. I know I'm going to. But first I've got to get the kids through their youth opener. And so what advice do you have for first timers?
Okay, so some people don't believe me when I tell them my strategy on this, but I have a thing where I rush the bird after I shoot it. So that means, like, if I shoot it with a shotgun even, and, turkeys will, typically they'll fall over and they'll flop around and flop, quite a bit. I run to the bird as fast as I can, because over the years I have had multiple turkeys take off running and fly away, never to be found again, where I could have prevented that if I was close enough in range to get a second shot off. So when I hunt with Daniel and some of our friends, we know that when a shot goes off, the shooter is going to rush the bird. We're going to run up to it, and then if it takes off flying, we're going to shoot a second time. Right. So everyone else knows that is the strategy. So no one else is going to shoot, even if they have it done. Everyone knows that if I shoot a bird, I'm going to run to it. So that is one thing that, obviously you would always want to talk that over with your hunting partners and make sure
Right.
they know what's going on, so it doesn't surprise them when you start running towards the turkey. But it's actually come in really handy for us. There's been a couple times when we'll shoot a bird and you think it's going down, it starts flopping, and if you're running towards it, when it starts taking off and trying to fly, you can shoot it again, and you'll get to keep that bird. But otherwise, you might never see it again. So that's one piece of advice that some new turkey hunters don't really consider. They've never seen how a turkey can fly off after it's been shot. But they're very resilient and very strong animals. My next piece of advice is never, ever grab that turkey until you're sure it's dead. Its spurs will cut you so fast. I've seen it happen. Guys will reach down and that the bird's not quite dead yet, and the spurs will catch them in the arm or in the hand, and they're really sharp, and it's really dangerous because, you just don't want that to happen in the field. So always make sure that turkey is completely expired before you try to grab it.
That's a great piece of advice. For some reason, Jules, I got to tell you, I just have this image in my head of you busting out of a ground blind, carrying your bow and running towards this dang turkey that may be flopping around, and it starts to fly, and you chucking your bow at it or something, just like,
right? Yeah.
Die already.
Yeah, that's almost what happened in Nebraska last year. I actually shot the turkey one time. I shot it. It might have been like, I don't know, an inch back too far, so it didn't really hit the vitals very well. The turkey runs off, and my cameraman and I actually ran over. We found it. I shot it a second time, so it had 2 arrows in it. And that turkey ran up a hill, and I got a 3rd arrow into that bird. I got 3 arrows. Perfect. And I mean, they were good shots. It wasn't like I was just barely hitting it. And that 3rd arrow, I shot it right through the back, and it still ran up the hill and dove under a tree. And of course, I volunteered to go under the tree to pull it out. And, that's when the whole knife situation happened. But they're very, very resilient. But if you don't chase them, I mean, there's no way you're going to find it later. You have to get on the bird pretty quick. So, yeah, it is kind of funny, though. We have a lot of footage of me running after turkeys.
I'm going to have to look it up. Some of that. Is it on YouTube?
Yeah. Well, I know one of our episodes you can kind of see me doing it. We were hunting in Lynchburg with a good friend of ours who we hunt with every year here in Tennessee, and he shot the bird. I didn't even shoot that turkey, but I saw it trying to take off, and so he raised up and shot the bird. And it was about 40 yards away. And in the video, you can see me stand up and sprint to it as fast as I can with my gun because he was laying on the ground and couldn't get up fast enough. So someone's got to chase the bird. So I always volunteer to chase him down if no one else can. So yeah, that one, I think it's on season 1 of Till Death Do Us Part. The footage is kind of funny. Yeah.
I'm going to check that out for sure. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about pig hunting, because I know that's another one of your big passions is pig hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us your favorite areas. Is that you like doing that down in Texas too?
Yeah, so pigs are really fun to hunt because you don't feel bad about it. You don't feel like, there's really no conservation to that other than kill as many as you can. Right. That's the best conservation part of that whole thing. They're fun to hunt because there's so many different methods. I've shot them at night. I've shot them in the daylight, with guns, with bows. We've really mixed it up and found different ways to hunt them, and we actually do eat them. A lot of people, question that, and we actually love eating pigs. We smoke them on the smoker. We do ribs. We actually use all of the meat from them. So, pig hunting is really fun because there is a certain level of danger to it. They can be really nasty, really mean animals. Yeah. But as long as you're safe and as long as you kind of know the protocol, when we hunt in Florida for them, a lot of times Daniel Lee and I will go out at night. When there's a full moon, you can technically hunt if you don't have any lights. So we don't take we have no lights, no flashlights, no nothing. And, we just walk around and look for pigs, and it's fantastic. They're very dangerous, but if one rushes you, you just jump up in a tree to get away from them, which we have had to do in the past. I've had to jump up on trees and fences to get away from them, but as long as you kind of know what you're getting into, and always have a sidearm just in case, it can be a lot of fun, and it's also really good practice. I hate to be the one to say it, but pigs are a fantastic way to practice for big game season. It's a live animal, and you have to kill them anyways. So, we'll practice our archery shots on them, and you have to hit them perfect behind that shoulder plate. Otherwise, your arrow's not going to go in. You hit that shoulder plate, and you don't get any penetration at all on them. So, I think that they're a really good way for people to keep their skill set throughout the year. There's no season on them pretty much everywhere. You can hunt year round as many as you want. So, I'm sitting in my office right now, and right above my desk, I have a Russian boar mounted that I shot last year, I think it was. And he's got huge cutters, and he was really mean. But I think they're just really cool animals, and I'm a huge fan of hunting them.
People just don't realize, I think, when the poor pigs, they don't realize how devastating they can be. You get, a sow, and she's got how many little piglets, and, each one of those is just going to totally devastate trees and tear up the roots and everything. We have them in Hawaii, and they just are horrible and will just devastate acreage.
Yeah, I know. I actually wrote an article about that for Universal Hunter magazine last year, and I think we called it the something hog epidemic, because it really is, and there's so many reasons why they need to be controlled. We know that they spread diseases, and even to farm animals, we know that they carry diseases and that spreads through them. But we also know that they root up the ground, and cattle will break their ankles in those holes that the pigs are rooting up in the fields. So, it's detrimental to the farming industry and to ranchers and, people trying to make a living. They're very destructive when their numbers are this high. And we do, as hunters and conservationists, we do have, a responsibility to help control those populations. And, I know a lot of people are finding different methods to go out and take larger numbers of them, at the same time. So, we all kind of do our part. And, if you can have a little bit of fun and work towards conservation at the same time, I definitely am always an advocate for that. But, I think a lot of people, like when we post pictures of pigs on our social media that we've harvested, you'll always get the ones who go, "Oh, that's so sad. Oh, look at that poor little pig." But I don't think they really fully understand the devastation that they're causing if we don't hunt them in large numbers.
Well, and they taste good. I mean,
they're delicious.
I mean, these people probably aren't realizing that cute little pig grows up to be this creature, but that's also the creature where they get their bacon from that they eat on Sunday mornings with their waffles.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And, this is going to sound terrible. Maybe I shouldn't even say it. But sometimes I'll shoot the smaller ones on purpose because they taste delicious.
Right?
And, And
they're easier to get into an emu.
Right. And they're going to have to be shot anyway. So, there's been times when I'll shoot a smaller one and we'll put the whole thing on the smoker. And it's just delicious. It feeds, everyone around, and everyone loves it. And, it's, I'm always a huge fan of anything that can feed my whole family in one sitting. So
right. Have you ever used an emu? It's the Hawaiian, the underground pit, basically, where you can smoke them.
I haven't, but I have heard so many good things about that.
I will send you a recipe that kind of fakes that, and you could do it on your smoker and get even better. But well, either that or, you know what? Cool. I'll come out and I'll show you one of these days and we'll have a party.
Oh, do that. Just come over. That'll be perfect.
Yeah, it'll be a big party. Speaking of parties, I know last year you and Christy Titus and Jana Waller all got together in Montana, and you were doing something, and for the life of me, I can't remember. So tell me, what was that about?
Yeah, so we did a project for Carbon TV. It was a Carbon TV original series called Women Who Hunt. And Christy Titus and Jana Waller are they are my two closest friends. We talk every day, and I love them so much. They're just salt of the earth, amazing, wonderful women, but they're also, just incredibly talented in the outdoors. So we did this project for Carbon TV, and we all met up out in Montana at Jana's house, which I'm at her house all the time, just because it's a fun place to go spend a week here and there. And we basically told our individual stories about why we hunt and how we hunt and what it means to us. And I think that was really an interesting project, because even though people see the three of us together all the time and they assume we're a lot alike, we're all very different. We all have different methods and different backgrounds and different strategies and different ways of hunting and even different ways of presenting ourselves. We're all just very, very different. We've just found this common ground that we've bonded over, and we're all three best friends. So that project was really fun to see it come to life and to watch the finished episode that they did, because it tells the story of three girls who are so much alike, but our stories are so completely different. And we all hunt for really good reasons. They're just very different reasons.
Well, I don't know Jana. I've, talked with her a little bit and had some interaction with her. Christy I've known for 8 years, and she is my inspiration for hunting. I went back in 2008 when she was first getting started doing her, really getting started and doing seminars and things. And I went to a little seminar over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and it was a women's elk hunting clinic, and there weren't very many people that showed up. And I sat and was just totally enamored. And I went out that fall and shot my first elk. And, sent Christy a picture and on her email, and never, ever expected to hear back from her. But she's like you. If you reach out to her, she's going to do her darndest to reach back. And Christy and I are friends now, and she has inspired me. I've listened to her seminar several times, and it's funny because I'll throw quotes back to her about something that she said. It's, my favorite one is, you got to listen to the story that they're telling, meaning the elk.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, I forgot I used to say that. And she's amazing. So if the three of you get together, I would probably just be in awe of the knowledge that you have and that is sitting in one room. And I'm so grateful that there are people like you that can be inspirations to people like me and to others, and to the kids and to other women and even to men. So I'm so lucky to have those girls. They inspire me every day. It's funny, I'm sure people wonder what we actually talk about because we group text together all the time, and we talk on the phone all the time, and they might like, do we talk about shoes? What do we talk about? I don't know. Hunting boots.
We talk about the same things. Yeah, hunting boots. We talk about the same stuff any girls would talk about, but I know for sure that if I send a question to those girls, they will have a very educated answer for me 100% of the time, and they're just so smart and so in tune with all of the same things that I aspire to be. It's like their hearts are in the right places, and they have educated themselves. And I mean, you've seen Titus, give her seminars. That girl knows her stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I always say, if I have to be lost in the woods with someone, I really hope it's Christy Titus, because she's amazing. And, Jana's the same way. That girl has put the hours in, and she spends her time on the mountain, and she earns every single thing that you see. She's not one of those where you look at her social media and you're like, oh, she's posing with someone else's animal. Okay, whatever. these girls are legit, and they're hard workers, and they're smart, and those are the people that I surround myself with. And I'm so much better because of them. And I always say you are the average of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. And you can take those 5 people and mesh them all together, and that's pretty much you. That's what you're going to turn out like. And that's why I keep them very, very close to me. I hope and pray that I can be like those 2 girls, because they just have really proven themselves over the years as being legitimate, hardworking, smart, amazing people.
Well, don't knock yourself. You're right there with them. So one of the things I like about watching any one of the 3 of you, and there's a lot of women that are out there doing, or trying to do what you guys are doing for women and for women in hunting. But when you see you guys, or when I see you guys harvest an animal, and that emotion still comes through. I mean, I've seen all 3 of you get the shakes afterwards and just be overcome with the moment and the gratitude of harvesting an animal. And it's just like, they get it. It's not about killing. It's about living. And you get it. And the message comes through loud and clear. And it just makes it so easy to watch. So you guys do a great job. All 3 of you do a fantastic job of getting that message out. And I know I'm appreciative of it. And I know I'm not the only one. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because it's very true, and it's a raw emotion that comes across when you really feel that way. And people have to remember that our whole lives in the field are on camera. So I've literally never done a hunt that wasn't filmed in the last 9 years. And every single thing that I do, every reaction I have, or every sad, horrible moment that I have, if I miss an animal, that's on film. You're going to see it. And if I wound an animal, which we all have done, you're going to see that too. And it's very raw, and it's very emotional a lot of the time. And it's I hope that I know that it will never go away. I know that I'll always have that spiritual connection to it. The mule deer that I harvested in Nebraska last year, I had him tattooed on my arm, because every day I look at his antlers, and they're the exact replica of his antlers on my forearm, and I look at him every single day, and it's a reminder that it was just a moment in time. It only took a second for me to take his life, but he's with me for the rest of mine. I will always, always look at that every single day of my life and remember that, we're taking a life in the field. And he's in my freezer right now. He's feeding my family, but it's a very serious thing, and I think that everyone should take it very seriously. I'm not saying everyone should tattoo it on their arm, but, we should all always remember that we are taking a life, and it is a spiritual, very, very spiritual and emotional thing.
Absolutely. I know I've said time and time before, if I ever get to the point where it doesn't just totally affect me head to toe, inside out, I mean, I'll just say it. I'm a girl. I cry when I harvest. I do. But it's not because I'm sad. I'm grateful, and I'm overjoyed and overcome with emotion. And so, I cry. But if I ever stop having those emotions, I'm not hunting anymore. I'm done.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. That's why, whenever we put our episodes out there, and I do have those reactions, and I'm, very open about it. I never hide the fact that I get emotional in the field. And, I think a lot of people relate to that. I know that every one of us have felt the same things. And that's part of what brings us together as a hunting community. We've all felt those things and experienced it.
Absolutely. Well, away from hunting a little bit, not that I couldn't talk about hunting all day, every day, but to step away just for a little bit, because I know that you've got quite the fashion background. And so I'm curious to know, any plans for maybe your own line of camo clothing one day?
Well, I do have a background in fashion. I was very fortunate to have a fantastic career in the fashion industry, which is very different from the hunting industry.
Very different.
But, and the people are so much nicer in the hunting industry. They're not as nice over in the fashion stuff. But I do not have any plans for my own clothing line. I mean, I have some little shirts that I sell, on my website, just with, cute little sayings on them. But I don't have any plans for a clothing line. And I'll tell you my reason for that. I work with Girls with Guns Clothing very closely. And for anyone who doesn't know that company, Girls with Guns is started by two adorable, amazing, beautiful girls, and they're smart and talented and creative and just like geniuses. And they started this company basically in their garage, and now it's huge, and their clothing is so nice. And I wear it. I'm wearing it right now. I wear Girls with Guns athletic wear pretty much every day of my life. So I work with them. I love supporting other women in this industry and supporting other, companies who've worked really hard to be successful. And I don't really have any interest in starting my own clothing line, but I do have a huge interest in wearing the cool stuff that they come up with.
Right.
So, for me, I just have way too many other things on my plate. So as fun as it would be to do something like that, I'm going to leave it to the pros. And, those girls, they come up with some really neat designs and really cool stuff. And I'm really into fitness and exercise, and their athletic line is just wonderful for my lifestyle.
Absolutely. Lonnie did a podcast with them not too long ago, and hearing how they got started and how far they've come in a relatively short period of time is amazing. But it's a testimony to how hard they have worked. And and I love their stuff too.
Yeah, and they are just wonderful to work with. They really, I love working with people who I consider friends, and I definitely look at those girls like they're just two of the best friends that anyone could have. They're very genuine.
There's another company not too far around here, just down in Oregon. It's called Nature's Paint, and they make a face paint, a camo face paint. And I was lucky enough to hook up with them and get on their pro staff. And they are just the sweetest couple of girls. And
Is it Serena? Is that right?
Serena and Nicole.
Yeah. That's so funny. I have some Nature's Paint sitting on my desk in front of me right now.
Awesome.
But, they are so sweet and wonderful. And you're right. That's another good example of a company, started by girls. They're easy to work with and wonderful. So, I love them also.
They're good people. Good people.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've been chatting for a while, so quickly just give us a rundown on, what does the summer look like for you, for Daniel, for, you guys together? Any big plans?
Let's see. Well, we're going into turkey season, so we always stay really busy for that. Probably do a lot of turkeys here in Tennessee. A lot of people don't know this. You can take 4 birds in Tennessee.
Oh.
So we like to hang around close to home. I am going to go to Florida and get my Osceola this year.
Cool.
So probably head down there here in the next, few weeks maybe. And we do some fishing in the summer. We'll head to Texas for a hunt down there. Probably head to Florida, to the Keys. We always fish for a few weeks down there. And then, we really don't have any time off. We usually just go straight from the summer into big game season.
Right.
So it's always something going on.
Well, if you ever want to go to Hawaii, let me know. I can hook you up on the Big Island with my family over there and take you pig hunting and do some, big fishing over there, marlin.
Yeah, we should do a girl trip. That'd be awesome.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have to twist my arm too hard. You say Hawaii, and I'm already making plans.
Oh, it's incredible.
fun.
My parents have a slice of heaven down there right by the volcano, and it's pretty cool. And there's pigs.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we should definitely plan that. I would love it. I'm always open to going and doing whatever. Life's an adventure, right?
Absolutely. Well, Julie, I have enjoyed our hour of chatting so much, and I really want to thank you for, letting me cut my teeth on the podcast thing with you. And hopefully I let you talk enough without me talking too much. But
well, I think you did great. If this is your first podcast, I think that you are, just right on track. You're doing a fantastic job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that immensely.
Thanks for listening to Get Bit Outdoors Podcast. Check us out on Facebook at Get Bit Outdoors Podcast, Twitter at Get_Bit Outdoors, and you can get us on iTunes and Stitcher. Leave us a rating and a comment on the show. We love the feedback. Thanks to Fish Face Goods, FX Custom Rods, Cinetic Reels, Max Lures, Yakima Valley Marine, and Slimers.